Okay. So welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Gabriella Gallagher, and I'm the National Chair of Canadian Friends of Peace Now. I'll be assisted today by our Montreal chapter head, Reuven Schultz. A special welcome to audience members from the United States, and thank you to our ally, New Jewish Narrative, for promoting today's important webinar. Our organization is the Canadian partner to PeaceNow, Shalom Achshav, which is Israel's leading peace movement and which promotes the two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. You can find out more about us on our website, peacenowcanada.org. We really hope you will consider supporting us with a donation, which you can do via our donate page on our website. We rely entirely on donations from people like you. Later on, we will have time for audience questions. Please type your questions at any time using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. Please make your question as concise as you can, and if you wish, tell us where you're from. Our webinar is being recorded and posted to our website. Now it's a great honor to introduce today's guest, Hagit Ofran. Hagit is the co-director of PeaceNow's Settlement Watch program. She is widely recognized as Israel's foremost authority on settlement expansion. For more than 2 decades, Hagit has uncovered and documented government-backed settlement activity. She is a leading voice in the fight to halt settlements and defend the possibility of a negotiated peace between Israelis and Palestinians. So welcome, Hagit. And I'll start with my first question. I'd like to, before we get too deep into the details, how about you telling us how you personally are doing in this time of war and your family, and how you manage to continue to work, do your work with PeaceNow?
Well, I think the effect of the war is mainly that it's heavy on my heart, on my feeling that we are again in a war. We're again sending our soldiers to fight and kill people, uh, while getting all the alarms and relatively where I live in Jerusalem is less than in other places, and we are protected. We have a shelter, we have alarm, so it's not so hard, at least not for me. I know some people find it very hard, and I think also the fact that the children don't go to school, and if you have young children or adolescents, it's also might be challenging, like the time of COVID, being at home, long days. But other than that, I mean, we are quite okay.
Okay. And I dearly hope that there's no air raid siren at all tonight, but certainly not
Right.
during this webinar. Let's
Yeah,
hope.
in case there is going to be an alarm, I will have to go to the shelter downstairs, and I might try to continue through the phone. We'll see how it works. I hope it doesn't happen.
Oh, me too. Okay. Well, then let's get into the meat of things. And can you give us the big picture of what has been happening in the West Bank, which is what you focus on? What sort of things have the government and settlers been doing in recent
Yeah.
weeks, months?
Yeah. So before I will touch to the question of what's happening now during the Iran war, I would like to give like an introduction to what the government has been doing. This government started its way in December 22, and in the fundamental guiding principles, the document of the establishing of the government, it was opened in the following statement saying, the Jewish people have an exclusive and indisputable right to all parts of the land of Israel, and the government will promote and develop settlements in all parts of the land, including the West Bank, what they call Judea and Samaria. So we have a government that explicitly is saying that only Jews have rights in this land. It's a government of Jewish supremacy, unfortunately. And the moves that they have been doing were to make Israel's control over the West Bank, and I'm talking only about West Bank issues, to make our control over the West Bank much, much deeper, much, much harder to undo, and to make the annexation, which is in fact a fact already. I mean, we cannot call our control temporary occupation for almost 60 years now and continue to call it an occupation, and to make this as an annexation in full, totally annexation. So one of the central moves were to change the way the government is managing the West Bank. According to international law, occupying power is not supposed to directly manage the occupied territory, but through the military. And the reason for that is that the military is obliged to take into account the interests of the occupied population, while the government is obliged to take care of the Israel's interests. That's what they are there for. And this government took a lot of the powers from the military and built a new system with it's officially within the Ministry of Defense, but it's not in the military, where all the action is managed directly by the government, and specifically by Minister Smotrich, who is a far-right minister from the Jewish national, the religious national party, is and this included many changes. So now, instead of having, I would say that it has many effects on the ground, but it also has an effect in the fact that it's harder now to call what we are doing in the West Bank as occupation. It's more of annexation or more direct management by the government. Sometime in June 2023, the government took a decision about the planning process and made it on an automatic process. Beforehand, it was under the government to approve any step of the planning in the West Bank, and they said, okay, we let go of that and allow the plans to move forward. And we saw that in the 3 years since this government, they already promoted over 40,000 housing units in settlements. In 25 alone, it was 27,000 units, and it's compared to around 5,000 every year. So we're talking about a huge amount of the plans in settlements that, if implemented, we might find, I don't know, another 250,000 settlers or a little less. So it's, sorry, a big drama. Another decision they took was to allow to take the forces of enforcement in areas that officially belong to Palestinians. Let me show you a map. Sorry. Um, um, if you can look now, I think you might see a map of the West Bank. You can see the brown areas. The darker browns are areas A and B that are officially um, controlled by the Palestinian Authority. And the lighter brown, it's Area C, and it's 60% of the West Bank. Areas A, B, and C were determined in the Oslo Agreement temporarily. It was supposed to be for 5 years, that the Israeli government will control 60% of the West Bank temporarily, and the Palestinians will start with 40% of the West Bank to build their state till we get to final status agreement that was supposed to be signed in May 99, according to the agreement. Anyway, you can also see in this map in yellow, um, I'm sorry, agreed upon reserve. It's south of Bethlehem, east of Bethlehem and Hebron. It's also was passed to the Palestinian control, but was designated as a nature reserve, so that Palestinians were not supposed to build there. So since Oslo, Israel is controlling the 60% of the West Bank and not allowing any Palestinian development, not allowing their permits to build, etc. Now the government decided that they can start to demolish houses at the beginning only in this nature reserve, in area B of nature reserve, and they stopped some Palestinian projects. But 1 month ago, the government the cabinet decided to also start enforcing demolitions in um, areas A and B if we think that they harming the environment or heritage or archaeology or water, meaning that now the government will have the powers to prevent any Palestinian development. There were also other cabinet decisions that has far-reaching um, um, consequences on land, like the decision to do land registration, which will lead to the possibility to make half of the West Bank into quote unquote state land that Israel can control directly. Also changing the laws of how you can buy lands in the West Bank, and authorities in Hebron, and many other series of decisions that are changing the situation, allowing more control of Israel. Another that is more the administrative picture. On the ground, what we see is, I think, the most, or let me say it differently. If you came to a tour with, I don't know, with Settlement Watch of PeaceNow 3 years ago, you would see many settlements, many outposts on the ground. However, if you came now, the what you see in the West Bank looks differently. And there are areas, very big amount of land, that you cannot see Palestinians anymore, that they left the area. I'm showing now another map. This is a map we published almost 1 year ago, where you can see all the red area is land that Palestinians are not allowed in anymore. And if you can also notice the yellow dots, these are Palestinian communities or parts of communities that were expelled from their houses. Um, so we have mass um, um, I hate to use this word, but I have no other description to it but ethnic cleansing from those areas where Palestinians are not allowed. And the way they are not allowed in is through settler violence. And the settler violence is based on a series of um, new kind of outposts that are agriculture outposts, farms. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Um, those farms, settlers establish and go out to the surrounding areas and start to kick out Palestinians from the area. And they do it violently. And this way, they manage to take over about 1 million dunams, established 183 such shepherding outposts, more than 100 Palestinian communities expelled, and we have in 2025 alone more than 1,800 attacks by settlers. 9 Palestinians were killed by settlers that year, and only in the last 2 weeks we have another 7 Palestinians killed by settlers. Um, and um, I did not mention the cases of demolition of houses that continued by the government, and the military operations that also led to the expulsion of Palestinians from their homes in Palestinian refugee camps near Jenin and Tulkarem. There were officially decisions to establish 68 new settlements, many of them new, others are regulations of in illegal settlements. And I can add many more to this list, and I might do that later. But the situation is very, very dire.
Okay, thank you for this overview. And I think you've partially answered, but I'll ask you it anyway. Like, has anything changed due to the current hostilities? Are has the we sometimes speak of the fog of war covering up or distracting people from what's going on. Is there, or is the government still pursuing these activities full force? Is it any slower? Is it just the same as always?
If you're referring to this uh, war on Iran, then yeah, there are, I mean, all the similar activities continue in terms of new outposts. We saw at least 3 or 4 of them established since this war, which is 2 weeks long already. Um, we saw several communities being expelled during this war. So this continued, and violence, as I mentioned, 7 Palestinians were killed. It's a lot. Um, but also we see, as part of security measures that the military is taking, is they closed down a lot of Palestinian villages. I mean, if you go out mean, this happened already after the 7th of October, that many, many roads in the West Bank were closed for Palestinians, meaning that they cannot um, go through a specific road, but they need to go around it because the road is now gated and closed by the military, and they need to do a detour to get to where they want. But now, during the Iran war, we saw cases where all of the entrances to villages were closed down. So I talked to Palestinian friends from Bet Umma, which is um, a community of about 20,000 people in south of Bethlehem. They usually commute to either Bethlehem or Hebron, but now they are disconnected from all their. I mean, in the past, it used to be like 20 minutes drive to Hebron, and you take a taxi. The ride will take you, I don't know, 5 to 7 shekels or something like that to get to Hebron. Now, you take a car to take you to the closed gate, and then you get off the car, and then you take another car to the next village in Khalkhul, and then you cross Khalkhul, and you pass to another car in the next crossing, in the next closure, and you get to Hebron after moving in 3 cars and paying 25 shekels or something like that. And it takes much more time. And I saw um, a small pickup truck coming to such gate, and another pickup truck coming from the other side, and all the vegetables to the market were moving from one to another because they cannot enter with the car because it's closed. So the military would close it and then sometimes open. The situation is very, very hard. Another thing that I notice from talking to Palestinians is that the economic situation has become very, very hard. And it's going back to 7th of October. I mean, Israel closed all the entrances to Israel. There used to be over 100,000 Palestinians working in Israel every day, and they brought money to hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, of families in the West Bank. Israel decided not to allow any Palestinian worker in anymore. So that's a big, big problem. Israel is also taking many measures against the Palestinian Authority and not passing all the money that belongs to the Palestinian Authority. And therefore, the Palestinian Authority is under huge pressure of shortage of money. And this means, for instance, that in the last year or so, the schools in the West Bank only work 3 days a week. Children only have, because the teachers only get half salaries, and all other people who work for the Palestinian Authority get only partial salaries. So the situation is very, very hard, and to move around from one place to another is so expensive. It's very, very hard, and you have this high level of violence everywhere by soldiers and by settlers that people are very much afraid. Um, any Either from being attacked uh, at their home or in the road by settlers or by the military, and it's very, very hard. I would also I asked also my friends about what they do with sirens. When there is an attack on Israel from Iran now, the sirens goes in all the settlements, and the Palestinians hear them. but they don't have shelters. So they don't have any place to go to. Although they are not the target, they did got hit. I mean, I think not directly, but from, we either get a direct hit, which is very, very bad, or you get only the um, the result of when our rocket is blocking the Iranian rocket, then you have like it falls over and it's much, much less dangerous, but still. So they got some of those also in Palestinian communities. And so just another example, there is a small community of a small few hundreds, maybe 1,000 Palestinians living in South Hebron Hills called El Khair. They are originally from Israel, from before Israel was established, that they were refugees in 48 and moved to South Hebron Hills and established their community there. And then the settlement was established near them, the settlement of Carmel. They are very, very close to it. It's about a few meters between the houses of El Khair and the houses of the settlement of Carmel. And in last summer, the settlers started to um, build a new caravan neighborhood uh, between the houses of the Palestinians. And during the works, the groundworks, there, the Palestinians tried to prevent the bulldozer from working on their private land. The settler there shot one of the activists, Oda Hadalin. You might have heard this name because he's a peace activist or a Palestinian activist that was shot and killed by this settler, Yinon Levy, and it was on camera. Um, and at the time, we as PeaceNow, we are following this case, or we're assisting the Palestinian community there with legal assistance. We filed a petition to the court against this caravan neighborhood, um, saying that it was built illegally, that they they go through private land to get it there, etc. And it's still in courts. But last week, they sent us a video of a crane putting like a mobile shelter for this caravan neighborhood. Like, they have like six caravans there of six families, and they put a shelter for them while their neighbors, the Palestinian community, has nowhere to go in cases of an alarm. And that's part of the situation.
Right. So a lot of violence, as you say, against Palestinians. You mentioned they're being pushed out of agricultural or grazing lands as well, you said. I understand from what you're saying, uh, the Israeli authorities are just either winking at it or sometimes assisting, or am I uh, putting words in your mouth? Are they when
Um,
people sometimes say the settler by, oh, these are a few bad apples. Are they? Is there kind of a con? Is it part of a big plan or? Um,
um, the the farms that are being established, those settlers who are there to take over land and to kick out Palestinians from the surrounding, this is organized, this is funded, and supported by the Israeli government. There is, and we have many years, trying to investigate how they get the money to do things that are illegal not only according to the international law, but also according to the Israeli regulations. All those outposts that are built illegally, and we investigated and we managed to find sources of government money and non-government money. It was very hard to find, but now those farms, they not only get from the, under the table kind of money, but there is money that is on the table. There is a budget that is called security measures for settlement points, where they put only last week in the discussions for the budget for the 2026, they put another 50 millions for 2026 in this budget line. And this security measures are anything that they manage to fund that is not the construction itself. Because construction is not legal, there are no planning and no approval, so they can build the road or open the road to the settlement through under the excuse of security. They say it's a security road, so they don't need planning and approval or the ownership of the land. They can use private Palestinian land for that. Then you have they can fund the cars and the vehicles for the settlers. And if you're familiar with videos of settler violence, usually you will see them riding those small tractors, or what we call rangers in Hebrew. These they got from the government. The Minister Smotrich, Minister Struk made many ceremonies of giving away those rangers to the violent settlers. They get solar panels, they get infrastructure, they get electric gates, drones, and many other ways of support that we see that goes to those very violent settlers. And that's one kind of support. And the other kind of support is what the military is doing and what the police is doing. The Israeli police is now controlled by a minister who is himself a settler or one of the Hilltop Youth leaders in the past. And he was involved in attacks on Palestinians or in Palestinian properties. And he's very supportive of those actions. And he controls the police in a way that ministers never did. I mean, he is intervening in all the very details of the police, and is blocking promotions of those that he doesn't like. So the police really changed their action. Not that they were very putting a lot of efforts to stop settlers of violent settlers, but now it's become almost never would they come if Palestinians or Israeli activists call the police. If they show up, they will do nothing, or they will arrest the Palestinians, not the settlers. So the settlers, they know that they are free to do whatever they want. Nothing's going to happen to them. And then,
Okay.
um,
I'm going to interrupt you just because we're
yes,
running out of time, or running, things are moving. I think you painted a picture of how uh, how tough it is, how hard it is, but or how dark it is. Well, I had sort of let's go into what can be done. And part of that question is, is the two-state solution still viable in your mind? And what is Peace Now doing? What are you doing as much as you can to change the picture?
Um, um, I think there is a lot to be done. I mean, we need to stop this. We need to stop the violence. We need to stop the violence of the military, the violence of the settlers. We need to stop the Israeli control over the West Bank. Um, and I think for each person who's asking what to do, there is a different question because it depends what you can do. If you were the Prime Minister of Israel, I will tell you what you can do. You can stop it in a minute. Um, but I am an Israeli citizen and we are a non-governmental body. So what we're trying to do is to affect the public opinion, the public discourse. What we are trying to do is to make this issue live in the Israeli discourse, that it will not pass unnoticed. I'm sorry if you hear some noises here. I'm sorry. I hope you don't hear them. Um, but the so we this is why we are following and monitoring settlement activity for so many years, but especially now, uh, to bring it to the Israeli media, to the Israeli discourse, uh, to to bring journalists to write about it in Hebrew and also in English, and to all the world, to the diplomatic community. And so we are a source of information for many of them. We also are doing recently more and more work in the Israeli politics arena. We're more in touch with members of Knesset or candidates to try to educate them or to give them tools, tell them here's a story that you might want to pick up or try to say something about it, and or come with us to see something in the West Bank. So we had a few tours with members of Knesset, with also people that have, influencers from social media. We are also doing a lot of social media directly, and I think we are, trying to maintain this issue because I think on the one hand, if you have a direct question in the polls in Israel, do you support the two-state solution? Um, I think we are in it's very little. I mean, we used to be half and half on this question in Israel. I think now we are more close to only 1/4 of the Israelis will answer this question directly and say yes, two-state solution. But at the same time, if you ask the question a little differently, first of all, if you ask how you think we should, what is your solution to it? The support for a full annexation is also 25 to 30% in total. So there's also this alternative is not also not an alternative also supported by the Israeli public. So we have like a majority or like center, which is very big, half of the people maybe, that if you ask them something like, are you supportive of an international or regional arrangement that will solve the conflict with the support of the US and with the support of Saudi Arabia or whatever, and including a Palestinian state, suddenly you have a big majority of Israelis that say to support it. What I'm trying to say is that although since the 7th of October and all the trauma that Israel has been through, and the fact that Israel also retaliated in a way that is so brutal and so um, um, lethal in horrible ways, and that made it more, I would say, I know everybody's now using the word normalize. I don't know, it became in the Israeli discourse, it became okay to kill thousands of Palestinians, to bomb innocent people, to torture um, prisoners. Became, if you do it, so it becomes normalized. So when we have that, um, so although Israel is in this situation, still, I think uh, the majority of Israelis don't want to control the Palestinians and don't think that this is the way we can solve the situation. And I think maybe it's too early to know uh, um, what will come out of the situation. I think that Israel of before 7th of October and the Israel after the 7th of October and the war on Gaza is not the same Israel. And I think the public opinion in the world is not the same public opinion anymore. And I believe you are familiar with that much more than I am. Uh, and I think it's a little too early to examine all the outcomes. I hope that something in the lines of what happened after the war in 1973, that was a horrible war in Israel with Egypt. It took us 5 years, but then suddenly the public opinion realized that we have to make peace with Egypt, and the support for the agreement was very high. There was over 70% support for it. And I think, so I don't think we're doomed. I think we have a lot of work to do. And maybe one thing I started to realize is that we might be talking about a long journey, that we need to work hard to change the public opinion and to work in the long term. Yeah, it was a too long of an answer to.
That's okay. I think you are one of the people who do work for the long term, and you certainly have been. Um, I have lots more follow-up questions I'd love to ask you, but I want our audience to have a chance as well. So I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Reuven. And just let the audience know that Hagit has generously agreed to stay for an extra 15 minutes after the hour. So we have roughly half an hour for audience questions. So go ahead, Reuven, and ask the first one. You have to unmute yourself, Reuven.
One question that's asked is, where does the government expect the Palestinians in the West Bank to live?
I think immediately speaking, they want them to be in enclaves as small as possible enclaves in the cities, in the surrounding of the cities. That's what they're working on, pushing them into bigger villages and cities. I think also that some people in this government, especially Minister Smotrich, he published a plan about, I think it was 2017 or 18. And according to his plan, the idea is to get rid of the Palestinians in the West Bank if they don't accept Israel's supremacy, to be, and if they refuse to be good residents with no equal rights, then we expel them. And we take advantage of a war and we expel them. That's his plan. And I think many people in our government have that in mind, that they can kick out Palestinians. They are trying to do it in Gaza. Um, um, and I think we should take it seriously as a possibility or something that we should make sure that it will not happen.
If there's new elections, what would a new government likely do about the situation?
So first of all, there are elections. We according to the law, the elections will be latest in the, I think, 27th of October, if not earlier. And there are big chances that we will have a different government. More likely not to be a PeaceNow government. We are not a party, but I'm saying not in our spirit, but with some representatives with ours that might be part of the next coalition. And actually, we are even, preparing some work for the next government, things that are achievable, that can be done, to change the direction where Israel is going in terms of the occupation and the settlements. And I think there is a big chance that we will see a different government and that it will go on a different path. But unfortunately, I should not think that it will be very easy. I think there's so many agendas now on the public discourse. This government is doing horrible things also in other spheres, like democracy, corruption, that should be fixed. And the next government will probably focus more about them. And every step to try to take down one small outpost will cost a lot of political power. A lot of the settlers will never let go of any small point, and therefore it's not going to be easy. But I believe it's possible to change the direction.
One person asked if the annexation proceeds and is successful, what would happen to the Palestinian rights? And is it possible to for Palestinians to have rights without two states?
Yeah, and I think I go back to Gabriela's question of a two-state solution. Is it still valid? I don't see a scenario where the Israelis annex the West Bank and give full rights to the Palestinians. And we have free elections, one person, one vote. And the next coalition will be comprised of the Likud party and the Fatah party, and I don't know, Hamas in the opposition or whatever. I don't see that happening. And what I do see is annexation, and it's actually one regime that is controlling two peoples, and one people get rights and the other doesn't. It's like apartheid, and it's actually something that we already are living in, unfortunately. It's just this it's not written in the headline, but we live an apartheid regime in the West Bank and in East Jerusalem.
Hearing about the poverty of the Palestinians in the West Bank, a couple of people have asked, how can they be helped? How can that poverty be alleviated? One woman, Sephora, tried to send money through her bank, but they wouldn't allow her to.
Yeah, it's very, very hard, and I don't know all the answers. There are organizations that are able to, to provide aid, to assist to the poor. Also, I can tell you that there are also Israelis that do that support and give money and distribute assistance. Um, and but the international community and diplomacy has been uh, so many years, demanding the Palestinian Authority to behave and to go in line with so many things as part of like if only if you behave will we do this and that for you. And the outcome was that the Palestinian Authority, even if they weren't at all corrupt and were only, doing all the work for the benefit of Palestinians, they cannot um, make the Palestinian prosper. They cannot win the poverty because they don't have enough resources, because they control only 40% of the West Bank. They don't have control over any international border. All their export is going through Israel, and we collect their taxes for them. It's really not viable, all this system that is built. And if the world is recognizing a Palestinian state and saying there is a Palestinian state, then they should also assist it to, to function. But it's very, very hard to do it under Israel control. So I think the international community should and can, put more pressure on the Israeli government to change the policy. I mean, we are doing what we can in Israel in terms of changing the public opinion. But we need all the support, and we need the world to also tell Israel that it's not okay. And settlements cannot be supported, and we cannot trade with settlements, and we cannot support it, and things of the sort.
Someone asked if in the last 2 weeks since the war began, 3 weeks, uh, has PeaceNow and other NGOs been allowed to operate in the West Bank?
Yeah, that is still possible. I mean, we go out to the field on a daily basis, to see what's going on. So that's not interrupted. It's harder, people are more, as I said at the beginning, it's harder to work technically because of the sirens, because the children are at home, and the public opinion is not is very focused on the war and less on our issues. So that's a big challenge. But I want to say, just in brackets, that before the 7th of October, it was also a big challenge for us to bring out to bring the issue of the conflict to the public opinion. Israelis will feeling that it's okay, we can live with that. That's what Netanyahu was preaching for 20 years or even more, that we can live with that. It's managing the conflict, it's not solving it. And I think now this ended. Like the international community and Israelis realized that we cannot continue and just, ignore the Palestinian issue. We have to face it. And this is, I think, also a positive outcome, that we will have to deal with it.
Gabriella has a question that she wants to ask on behalf of somebody. Gabriella?
Yeah, thanks. I one of our participants asked about Palestinian support for the two-state solution, and I did want to ask you that as well. He's saying that there are polls that show that the Palestinians don't want a Jewish state any more than a lot of Jews. Many Jews don't want a Palestinian state. So, first of all, is that true in your estimate? And what can be done, and what are you trying to do to influence Palestinians?
Now, I don't think I have a lot. We are not trying to affect Palestinian public opinion, not directly. I mean, only indirectly. I think, yes, the polls show that there is less and less support for the two states solution in the Palestinian side, like also in Israel. However, and I think also many of them do support one state solution. Although I think many of the younger generation, when they think about one state, they don't think about full rights. I mean, with the Jews here, they think about having a Palestinian state, um, and therefore I think, although if you ask me, what do I mean, if I am against one state solution, or if I'm in favor of it, I'm not against this idea to have one state with, Palestinians and Jews together living in one state. It's not something that I say I don't want. I just don't think it's possible. I don't think that it's easier to get there than to get to two states where both sides have their own state. But then I think very soon after two-state reality, the two states will be very, very much intertwined, and a lot of, I mean, the border will be very much open, and a lot of working together. But I think it's much, much easier and much more realistic to make Israelis withdraw from the West Bank rather than to make Israelis give full rights to the Palestinians, unfortunately.
Okay. Ruben, are you coming back to ask some
Yeah.
more questions?
Well, one person asked, what could our leaders in Canada do to help this situation? Is there something they could do? Like, should rabbis have sermons on this question? She asked.
I think the discourse, especially in the Jewish community, but not only the Jewish community, the discourse abroad is very important, and it also affects the discourse in Israel. And sometimes people used to ask us, why are you talking in English, or why are you going to advocate outside of Israel? And I say it's part of the advocation also in Israel. And we've seen it so many times that we wrote a report, we sent it to the Israeli journalists, they did not talk about it at all, but then it hit the New York Times, and suddenly they cover it because it was in the New York Times, because the international discourse is part of the Israeli discourse too. And especially when we're talking about the Jewish community, it's there is a discourse of a Jewish community around the world, including in Israel, and I think we need all of you to speak up and to say that it's not okay, that it's not normalized, and that we want to change it. And that's our challenge, our generation's challenge, as a Jewish people is to make the state of Israel a place of peace, that that the Jews and Palestinians can live together side by side. And this is our challenge, and I hope we will be able to move forward to it.
Gabriella, did you have another question to ask?
No, Ruben, keep going.
Okay.
We still have lots of have a
Okay.
few more minutes and lots more questions. Go ahead.
Someone wrote, Leslie wrote, when I look to the future, I have a feeling of dread about where Israel and world Jewry will be in 10 to 15 years. How does the coalition and settler community see the long future? And what is their vision? She asks.
I think their vision eventually is what they think, that we can make the Palestinians surrender, either to obey or accept Jewish supremacy or to leave. I think that's what they have deeper in mind. At least the hardcore right wing. There is also the messianic idea that we should control and that the other nations should also accept our supremacy. But I think this is what they have in mind. But again, it's only the hardline right wing, which has a lot of support in Israel, but it's not the majority in Israel. The majority is just not thinking about where we're going. They're just angry about the Palestinians that hit us, that hurt us. They don't want to give in, but they also don't care about them or don't want to control them at the same time. So I believe that as soon as there is leadership in Israel that is saying, okay, we're going to solve this conflict, and we got an agreement, and we got all the world to support it, and we got Saudi Arabia and all the Arab countries to support it, and Nobel Prize and all that, most of the Israelis will tell you that they were always supportive of that.
Well, what can Canadians do to change the situation?
So as I said, speak out. Don't let it be normalized that this is the situation and this is where we should go. If you can affect your country's attitude diplomatically so that it will be very clear that Israel is legitimate, occupation is not legitimate, we cannot support it, Palestinian state should be supported, that this is where we should go. And if you are able to assist also in donations, so you can donate to those initiatives who support this direction.
Prime Minister Carney has recognized the Palestinian state. What should be the next step for Canada?
Canada did some steps that are important, such as the recognition. They took some measures of sanctions against violent settlers that were involved in attacks on Palestinians. I think it's also an important message that Canada is not accepting violence of settlers, not accepting occupation. And you can take it even further to say we, as a country, we don't want to be involved in settlements, and therefore we cannot cooperate with businesses that are part of the settlement enterprise. That's another move that can also convey this important message.
Gabriella, did you want to ask one last question now?
Yeah, thank you, Ruben, and we are running out of time, so I'd like to ask another one question and give Hagit an opportunity to also wrap it up for herself. And what I didn't ask you, Hagit, is we can see from what you're saying that the situation is the way it's going is very bleak for the Palestinians. In what way would you argue it's also this path that the government is on, that this path that Israel is on, is bad for Israelis themselves?
I think it's very clear, that it's bad for Israel. We are in 3 years almost of ongoing conflict. Our economy is not in good shape. We are running to shelters so often. People are hit, and there is also a lot to come. I mean, it's not stable, it's not viable. We cannot go on with controlling the Palestinians. I think there were two main issues or beliefs of the right wing in Israel that totally collapsed at the 7th of October. One is Netanyahu's managing the conflict, that you can manage this and they go on and live securely. And the other is what the more hardliner settlers or right wing in Israel will tell you, that you can make the Palestinians surrender, that if you only use enough force, they will give in. And I think after we used so much force in Gaza, and still we have Hamas in power, I think it's proof that the only way for sustainable and peaceful Israel is through peace, through resolving the conflict. And the only way to resolve the conflict is through a Palestinian state, is through ending this occupation. And I think also, if we want to be able to end the conflicts with our surrounding countries, with the Arab countries, it has to go through the Palestinian conflict at first.
Is that what gives you hope and keeps you going? The belief that there is no other way, and is that what gives you? Is that what you see as the light at the end of the tunnel?
Yes, I think that the majority of Israelis eventually support or will support it. And although it's not easy to get there, I think it's possible. And this is why I continue. I mean, that's what I believe can happen, or that's my hope. But in the days that it's harder for me to believe, then I say to myself, this is the right thing to do. I have to fight against it. I don't have any choice, to say, okay, I have no hope, so I can leave this issue. No, even if you don't have hope, you have to fight to change it. That's our challenge. That's something we have to do.
Okay, I think we need to wrap things up. Although there are a lot of other good audience questions, and I wish we had time to ask them all. I'm sure I encourage the audience to look at the Shalom Achshav PeaceNow website for all the really excellent and detailed reports that Hagit and her colleagues put out. This webinar, remind you, will be recorded and will be put online. And the maps that Hagit showed us, I'm sure we can get those and distribute those to everyone. So Hagit, I just want to thank you so much. First of all, for the incredible work and dedication that you show, the incredible work you do, the dedication and belief in peace that inspires us to continue also to believe and to work for peace. Thank you, Reuven, for your great moderating of the questions and helping me out. Thank you to all the audience for participating. Stay tuned for other webinars and let's and of course we wish for Hagit a peaceful night, if not, and many peaceful nights, and early best wishes for the Passover too. And thank you, everyone. Shalom, salam. See you next time.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.